Hello everyone, we're back here. It's just almost about an hour and beans, peas are almost getting done. It's quite tender as you can see. And guess what? I am going to drizzle a little bit of honey. Now the idea is the honey adds just a little smidget of sweetness. You might say if you were to measure the honey, it will measure about 2 full tablespoons of honey, and just stir that in ever so slightly, just so that we have a good mix with our peas, and just cover that to continue to boil just enough to allow the honey to seep into the beans and give our peas a little bit of sweetness. I always want to add that. And I have here not quite a full cup of canola oil. And this is we are preparing to make, I'm going to say, comfortably use 3/4 of a cup. We're going to saute our onions. I have a little bit of onions that's already chopped. I prefer to use the sweet Vidalia. Remember when I added the little honey? I'm also using sweet yellow onions. I have some that I already chopped. And that adds a little bit sweetness because I like to make my peas quite spicy. Some might think it's not spicy enough. It's somewhere right there in the middle. I would make my peas, and because there's that sweetness, there's some little bit of chopped garlic. I will saute this in my pan. You're gonna get a little bit of sparkle there because that all has been ready for a while. That's your usual. It will sparkle to let you know your canola oil was just perfect and ready to go. You're gonna saute this. There we go. And you may notice that slight golden, which is all good because that even brings out the sweetness in your sweet onions. Now some of you might prefer using the purple onions for more flavor. I find the purple onions a little too strong sometimes. I just prefer to stick with my yellow onions. These are sweet yellow onions. And while this is sauteing, I have here spices. You remember we did talk about the corned beef? So we use these corned beef as, this is a canned corned beef. You can get this from your grocery store. We use also the crushed tomatoes. This is also from your local grocery store. It's really easy. And then you have some seasonings here that are favorites of mine that I like to use. I already have them. My cayenne pepper, for a little bit of that. And I have what you call the ground It is a ground smoked habanero peppers. If you notice, there's a little bit of that in here with the cayenne. Remember, I did say I make it a little spicy. I have some Knorr chicken mixed in with a little bit of nature seasoning. These are all what I put in, and even as that onion sauteing, I'm going to add my tomatoes. It's coming up very nicely. Oh, it smells so good. Woo! All right. So we mix that in very well. You want this to saute, to cook a little bit. And you know, with the crushed tomatoes, there's also a little bit of sweetness in your canned crushed tomatoes. Just a little bit. All of this go a long way to add to the beans. Or your purple hull peas. So this is cooking. And just as it comes to the boil, I'm going to be adding my corned beef. I will add the spices as well. Sometimes this is optional. You may like to use a little bit of curry. Remember, this is a tomato stew, but it really does have that corned beef in the stew. And you all might be wondering, how is this gonna mix together? Well, we're gonna see this at the end when our beans looks good as it's still cooking. It's getting real tender now. Now all that little bit of honey that was drizzled over the beans is actually sipping right in, getting to give the beans a sweetness. Remember, this was a fresh frozen purple hull peas, so that freshness helps to retain the sweetness that the beans should have and gives it a natural sweetness. Now I'm going to be adding see, that's a little boil going on here, and I will add my cayenne, smoked ground, or should I call it sun-dried? It really is a sun-dried habanero, but ground to powder. You would get this specifically in most African grocery stores in your area. This is an African kind of pepper. You have your fresh, typically your fresh habanero in the stores. We all know how hot the habanero is. Now this is your smoked or sun-dried habanero, should I say. I keep calling it smoked. It is a sun-dried habanero. Then it's ground up. And here I'm adding, oh, that's looking good. You should be here smelling this really rich. That looks very nice. So we're going to add this. Right there again, the seasoning that is being added is that Knorr chicken, the less salt Knorr chicken. I'm very conscious of sodium in your food. We have to keep to low sodium, so I tend to use the less salted Knorr chicken powder. I'm going to let this sit and boil we have an option where you can add, just to spice it up, add a little bit of curry to your corned beef stew. A little bit of curry tends to give it, I guess, get it more exotic, I would say. And you might be asking, what's the difference between this and the refried beans? By the time it's all done, you will see the difference. I assure you, we're going to be turning out that delicious dish